Everyone talks about loyalty like it's automatically a good thing. Stay loyal, be loyal, value loyalty, respect loyalty. And generally speaking, that's good advice. Loyalty is one of the foundations of strong relationships, strong friendships, strong families, strong communities, strong teams. Without loyalty, trust becomes fragile. Without loyalty, commitment disappears. Without loyalty, relationships become temporary. But there's something nobody talks about. Loyalty has a dark side. And for Scorpio, that dark side can become one of life's most painful lessons. Because sometimes, the people who value loyalty the most become the people who suffer from it the most. Let's start with a simple question. Why do people stay in situations that clearly aren't good for them? Bad relationships, one-sided friendships, toxic workplaces, unhealthy partnerships. Why stay? From the outside, the answer seems obvious. Just leave, move on, walk away. But human psychology isn't that simple. People don't stay because they're weak. They stay because they're invested, emotionally invested, mentally invested, sometimes spiritually invested. And investment changes decision-making. The more you invest into something, the harder it becomes to abandon it, even when logic says you should. This is called the sunk cost effect. Psychologists have studied it for decades. The idea is simple. When people invest significant time, energy, or emotion into something, they often continue investing simply because they've already invested so much, even when continuing makes no sense. Think about that. Sometimes the past keeps people trapped in the future. And Scorpio often experiences this intensely. Because Scorpio doesn't invest casually. When Scorpio commits, they commit deeply. When Scorpio believes in someone, they believe fully. When Scorpio loves, they love completely. And that's beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. Because deep commitment creates deep attachment, and deep attachment can cloud judgment. Now let's talk about hope, because hope is one of the strongest forces in human psychology. Hope keeps people going during difficult times. Hope helps people survive challenges. Hope creates resilience. But hope also has a shadow side. Hope can convince people to stay long after reality has changed. People say, they'll change. They didn't mean it. They'll become the person they used to be. Things will get better. Sometimes that's true. Often it isn't. And the difference matters. Because loyalty without reality becomes denial. That's a difficult truth, but an important one. Now here's something fascinating. Many highly loyal people confuse endurance with love. They believe suffering proves commitment. The longer they stay, the more meaningful the relationship becomes. But healthy relationships don't require endless suffering. Healthy relationships require reciprocity, mutual effort, mutual respect, mutual investment. Without reciprocity, loyalty becomes imbalance, and imbalance eventually creates resentment. This is one of the hardest lessons Scorpio learns. Because Scorpio often has a tremendous capacity to endure, to fight, to stay, to believe, to support, to sacrifice. But sacrifice without appreciation becomes exhaustion. Eventually, even the strongest person reaches a limit. Now let's discuss identity. Because loyalty often becomes part of identity. Some people don't simply practice loyalty, they become loyal people. It becomes part of who they are, part of how they see themselves, part of how they define their character. And that's admirable, but it creates a problem. When leaving becomes necessary, it can feel like betraying your own identity. Suddenly the question isn't, should I leave? The question becomes, what kind of person does leaving make me? And that's a much harder question, especially for Scorpio. Because Scorpio often values integrity deeply. They want to keep promises, honor commitments, protect relationships, stand by people, even during difficult times. The problem is that not everyone deserves that level of loyalty. Read that again. Not everyone deserves that level of loyalty. That's not cruelty, that's wisdom. Because loyalty should be earned, not automatically distributed. Now let's talk about emotional debt. This concept isn't discussed enough. When someone has been important to us for years, we often feel indebted to the relationship. Even if the relationship becomes unhealthy, we remember the good times, the support, the memories, the history. And history creates emotional weight. That's why leaving can feel guilty, even when leaving is necessary. The mind focuses on what the person once was, not what they are now. And that's dangerous. Because relationships exist in the present, not the past. People often stay loyal to memories while ignoring reality, and reality eventually demands attention. Now here's the turning point. The strongest Scorpio eventually realizes something powerful. Loyalty and self-respect must coexist. One without the other becomes destructive. Loyalty without self-respect creates exploitation. Self-respect without loyalty creates isolation. Balance matters, always. Healthy people know when to stay. Healthy people know when to leave. Healthy people know when to forgive. Healthy people know when to move on. And those decisions require courage. Because leaving isn't always easy. Sometimes leaving breaks your heart. Sometimes leaving feels like failure. Sometimes leaving feels like abandoning a dream. But sometimes staying causes even more damage. And that's where wisdom appears. Not in blind loyalty, not in blind detachment, in discernment. The ability to recognize what deserves your energy, your trust, your commitment, your time, your life. Now let's discuss boundaries. Because boundaries transform loyalty from a weakness into a strength. A boundary says, I care about you. But it also says, I care about myself. A boundary says, I believe in this relationship. But it also says, I won't destroy myself to maintain it. That's healthy. That's mature. That's sustainable. And that's the version of loyalty that creates long-term happiness. Not martyrdom. Not self-sacrifice without limits. Balance. Because the goal of loyalty isn't suffering. The goal of loyalty is connection. And real connection requires two people, not one. Now here's the final truth. The dark side of Scorpio's loyalty isn't loyalty itself. It's forgetting that loyalty should flow both ways. The strongest people aren't those who stay forever. The strongest people are those who know the difference between commitment and self-destruction. Those who know when to fight and when to walk away. Those who know when to hold on and when to let go. Because sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is stop giving your loyalty to people who never valued it in the first place. Scorpio, comment below. Loyalty without boundaries becomes self-destruction. And if you're part of the Scorpio Secrets family, subscribe now. Because in our next video, why Scorpio becomes dangerous when they finally stop caring. And what you're about to learn may completely change how you understand emotional detachment, self-respect, and human psychology.